I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
I wanted to leave Nashville, Tennessee very badly when I was in high school. So I went to the East Coast for college. So I went to Rhode Island. I went to art school. I really thought I was going to be a fashion designer. I went to school for fashion design. I graduated college. I made custom wedding gowns for a while. I've kind of always had this like entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, I would say my first business was in the 4th grade when I was charging people on the playground to paint their nails. In the 6th grade, I was actually selling Avon, to the teachers at school. I was an Avon sales rep. At one point in high school, I went to wholesale clothing market, bought wholesale clothing. I did like an at-home boutique before it was, now everyone has their own at-home boutique. But, so I've just always had a really creative drive, and I've always wanted to figure out ways to make money with that creative drive and to create things. So after college, I did wedding gowns, realized that brides, normal people with an engagement ring on before their wedding, turn crazy. So they are literal crazy people, okay? Yeah. So and making their dress is probably the most stressful thing you could think to do. And so after quite a few experiences where I was like, you know what, this is actually not for me. I then created an accessories line out of recycled coffee bean sacks. I've had 9 creative lives. Seriously. Okay. I've had a lot of iterations of businesses. And I would say a lot of the early businesses didn't quite succeed in the way that, it's not like I was selling wedding dresses, to hundreds of people. Not at all. It was probably 12 dresses in 2 years. And then I made these, I kind of fell into these coffee bean sacks. There's a local coffee company in Kansas City where we lived. And I guess I'm kind of skipping over the fact that I got married in college. And then we moved to Kansas City for my husband's job because he was an entrepreneur. So he opened a pest control company in Kansas City.
Okay.
And I was making these wedding dresses, and I started making these tote bags, and everyone loved these tote bags. So I ended up going to wholesale market, selling them. There was at one point, there was this really awesome department store in Japan that was selling them. But I had become a factory worker. My husband would come home at night, and we would be grommeting bags. One year, the year that we had our second child, we sold 3,000 bags, and we made them all. And it was okay, we've got to stop this. We have 2 babies that are 18 months apart, and we're making, tote bags in our basement. Okay, this has got to stop. So at that point, kind of took a break from what I would say real businesses and just started blogging. In 2013, I started my creative blog, Handmade in the Heartland, and it was awesome because it was I could cook and put recipes on it. I could sew and put sewing projects on it. I could kind of do whatever I wanted. There was no pressure of deadlines of a bride. There was no, customers bags in Tokyo, all these things. So I just did that for a while. My husband sold his business. He decided he wanted to go back to school, so he went to dental school in 2016. And during that summer before he went to dental school, I had this idea that I really wanted to open a shaved ice business in Kansas City. I really wanted to open a gourmet shaved ice business where we put ice cream in the middle of the shaved ice. No one was doing it in our little suburb. And I told him, we kind of had this moment where financially we were kind of in a tight spot. Some things had not worked out business-wise on his end, and we had this amount of money in the bank for dental school. And I was like, I want to spend it all and open a shaved ice business. And he was like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I think it will work. I think it will get us through dental school. I really do. And he I don't know how or what faith he has in me, but he said yes, which was kind of crazy. And in the summer of 2017, we opened our shaved ice business, and 500 people showed up opening day, which was kind of this wild, amazing thing that happened. And for 3 years, during the rest of dental school, we did shaved ice. We sold that business. And so I kind of feel like Lilo's was my first real success. It was a business that we started from scratch. We grew. I learned so much doing it. And then we were able to sell it for a profit when we moved. And so that brings us to Oklahoma. So yeah, so we moved to Oklahoma because he got a job with the dental group here. And some of our friends from Kansas City had moved to Oklahoma. And so they were like, hey, come down here. It's really great.
Yeah.
So then we come to 2020 when we moved here, like during the pandemic. We moved here in May of 2020. Like there is not a worse time to move somewhere to change, to uproot your life and your 4 children. I also skipped over. I had 2 more kids in those years of shaved ice. I actually had a baby on July 1st, 2019, like in the middle of the summer doing shaved ice. I'm in the hospital. My husband's at a 4th of July event asking me all these questions about how and it was just, that's kind of, anyway, that's probably more than.
It's an entrepreneur's life.
Yeah, totally. And, it's like unpredictable and everyone's like, that quote of like, you have a plan and it doesn't go like the plan at all. I truly thought I was going to be a fashion designer and make wedding gowns for the rest of my life. And now I'm making ice cream. So, it's just, but it's almost, it's better than what you planned out, the way things happen. So we moved here in 2020. Did not want to do shaved ice anymore. Was like, no, I'm done. And I actually did something really strange and I got a corporate job, which was so interesting. I got a job at Hobby Lobby corporate and started working in their art department as a designer and stylist. And I learned so much. So 2021, I started at Hobby Lobby and I made some really amazing friends who are I still work with today through Boomtown. But it was just like this really interesting experience for me of like learning how a larger company works and seeing the processes and learning some more about, just how business works and on a much larger scale. So it was really interesting. But when I was at Hobby Lobby, I got bored and I kept thinking about ice cream. When we moved here, we had a place in Kansas City that we went to every weekend. Like it wasn't a date if we didn't end up at Betty Ray's. And when we moved here, we tried all the ice cream. Like we literally went to every single place that sells any type of frozen dessert. We tried it all. And we just like always felt a little disappointed because it wasn't like Betty Ray's. And I just thought, the city needs a really good ice cream place. Like I really want a good ice cream place here. And I kept thinking about it. And I'm kind of one of those people, it's just like the shaved ice. Like if I have an idea and I really want to do it, it's going to happen sooner than later. And so, I was still at Hobby Lobby and I found a commercial real estate listing. So I found this real estate listing for the 23rd Street store. And I sent it to my husband and he's like, I think you need to learn how to make ice cream. And I was like, oh, the details, I'll figure it out. Like, this is the spot. I know it. This is the spot. And so the next day I had found a 3-day workshop in New York for commercial ice cream making. And I sent it to him. And it was 2 weeks later in December. I was like, can I go? And he's like, sure. And I think at that point he knew like, okay, like this is where we're going. Like this is what's going to happen. Like there's no stopping this train now.
Yeah.
So yeah. That was December of 21. January 22, we signed the lease for 23rd Street and opened in June.